Shannon, do you like his answer?
I love the answer. He's absolutely right. Dak put up a lot of empty calorie stats. And you just look at it, they fell behind by a lot. Last year, Dak was leading the league in passing yard when his team was down by at least 2 scores. Skip, nearly half of his passing yards came when they were down by at least 2 scores. Now, that lets me know that here's the thing, Skip. Now, he's going to throw for some yards because you just gave this man $160 million, $75 million alone this year. You drafted CeeDee Lamb when you really needed a defensive player. So that tells me you traded a first-round pick 3 years ago for Amari Cooper.
Yep.
So you got what you equivalent of 3 #1 receivers. You got a $160 million quarterback, and you think you about to turn around and hand the ball up to Zeke 30 times a game. That's not happening. But they do need to be balanced. Now, a lot of that's going to be predicated on how well your defense plays. Because it seems to me, because they always get off to these slow starts, and you blame Jason Garrett on that, remember? Oh, they don't seem ready to play. And the same thing happened last year. And before you know it, Dak is having to throw the ball 45, 50 times a game because they're down 14. They're down 17, 21 points. But no, Dak should not want to have 6,000 yards. Only Peyton Manning really threw for those many yards. Tom threw for, I don't know if Tom had 5,000 that year. Maybe, I don't think he did. But when you throw for that many yards, Skip, you're normally behind. When Peyton broke the record, Skip, they were 13-3. But Dak, you see what Dak was doing. What did the Atlanta had them down, like 39-20? Seattle had them down bad. Cleveland had them down by a big number. So, no, he should not want that. I understand. They're going to try to get Zeke. Zeke does look, and I will give him credit, he looks like he's in the best shape of his life. He looks better than he did coming out of college. But I just don't know if a running back can recapture once it starts to slip away. And this is an aging offensive line. Skip, they're not 40 years old, but they've had a lot of collisions on those bodies because they were such a run-dominant team for 6 or 7 years. Even before Dak got there, Skip, they relied on DeMarco Murray running the football. So for me, I'm not expecting a big bounce-back season by Zeke. I think he'll be better than what he was last year. But Dak answered that the way he should have answered. Hell no, I don't want 6,000 yards. 6,000 yards means we're behind a lot, and we're probably going to be losing those games.
Okay, is it possible for a quarterback to throw for 6,000 yards for a dominating team? Sure it is.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you are John Elway or Dan Marino.
Yeah, Marino did it. Yeah, they was 14-2 when Marino threw for 5,000.
Okay, have I ever put that, or let's even do Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. Have I ever put Dak in that classification? I don't. I love him. I loved him from the start. I told you the first day we ever did this show back in September, was September 6th of 2016. I told you, I watched was it the second preseason game out here against the Rams, and I said, that kid can play. Because gamer, baller, playmaker, a very good thrower, but I never said he's a great thrower of the football.
But, Skip, the numbers will be a little bit more inflated because you got an extra game.
So I know, I got that. But what we're talking about here is upside down, because to your point about empty calories, I'm going to use my least favorite stat in all of sports right now. Dak Prescott, in his last 17 starts for this franchise, is 6-11. It's obviously not all his fault because the defense has been deplorable. It has been abominable. It has been historically bad, and it was last year. But Dak gets off to slow starts, too. So, as you always tell me, every time we go back and forth on a Monday morning on this show, did he get the football? Yeah, he gets it half the time. He gets his shot, right? And he's not doing anything with it because they're falling almost hopelessly behind. And that's what happened in those first 4 games last year, although the first game was it Sunday night at the Rams out here at SoFi. It was the first game at SoFi. He was very good in that game, and they lost 20-17, and I thought he got a horrible call. You tried to take the other side of it, but you were wrong. No, it was
You saw the man he stands, Skip. Michael Gallup did that.
Push off because it was Jalen Ramsey was all over him to start with, and they were just hand-fighting down the field, and they throw a reputation flag. They gave it to Jalen Ramsey, and it changed the game because the game is about to be at least tied at 20-all. Maybe it's overtime.
And they just went down the field and scored on your defense.
But we lost 20-17, and Dak was very good. Had a QBR of 81. That's on a scale of 0 to 100. Then here we go. Atlanta at home. To your point, they're down 39-24 with under 8 minutes left in the game, and it took it wasn't even a minor miracle. It was a major miracle, whatever that watermelon onside kick was, to recover that, for them to pull it out. In the fourth quarter of that game, Dak threw for 182 yards. Atlanta's pass defense last year, coached, at least overseen by Dan Quinn, my new defensive coordinator, was the worst pass defense in the history of pro football. So you want to talk about empty calories? You want to talk about fraudulent as far as a record start goes? It's completely misleading because they pulled it out 40-39 and they really didn't deserve to, because they got basically blown off their home
you remember
field.
what Tom Brady did to that defense in the second?
Twice, because he had him.
You remember, they had 0 points in the first half in Atlanta, and then he threw for like 300 yards.
He torched them 2 of the last 3 games.
Yes.
Their division rival, Atlanta Falcons.
That's your DC now.
Okay, then we go to Seattle. At Seattle, they end up losing 38-31, but in the middle of the third quarter, they're down 30-15. Well, here we go again with these slow starts, and I'm saying, yeah, meet the new coach, same as the old coach. And what did you criticize? The harshest off Hard Knocks was the attempted motivational speech by Mike McCarthy. It was lame. It was forced.
Now you see why when they're down at halftime, they can't never come back.
Okay,
with that, how am I going to get motivated to do that?
Who's going to respond to that kind of talk, right? Okay, so here we go again at Seattle, but in the fourth quarter, he throws for 150 more yards, and they came back and actually had a chance at the end. And Dak threw kind of, it's almost a Hail Mary throw, and it got picked off at the end of the game. And remember what Jerry did on his radio show, I guess it was 2 days later? It sounded like he was taking a little shot at Dak because he was saying, those are the kind of plays Mahomes routinely makes, where he spins out of trouble and finds somebody in the end zone. Well, Dak spun out of trouble and then couldn't find anybody. And then he concluded, Jerry did on his radio show, by saying Romo often did that, where he would spin out of trouble and find a receiver, and it felt like shot and shot.
He did,
right? At Dak Prescott. Okay, then we come to the clincher. They're at home against the Cleveland Browns, who weren't that great at this point. They hadn't taken off yet. They fall behind 41-14 in the fourth quarter. And guess what? He throws for 254 in the fourth, by far the most yards any quarterback threw for in any fourth quarter last year. 254 in the fourth. And all of a sudden, I read story after story right here, right now, at this moment, of people saying, Dak was on a historic pace. No one had ever thrown for that many yards in the first 4 games. And it meant what? It meant you should have been 0-4, and you miraculously you were 1-3. Right?
Yes.
Well, what am I supposed to do with that? So to your point, way to go, Dak. At least he had the humility to swallow a little pride and say, well, I don't want to do that again, because that means we're in trouble.
Oh, yeah, you throw for 6,000? Oh, you definitely behind. You behind by 21 points early.
Unless you're doing what Mahomes did to Tampa at Tampa in the middle of the regular season, when I can't remember the numbers, when he threw to Tyreek.
Yeah, he had like 360 at the half.
Okay, well, didn't Tyreek in the first quarter have 200?
Yeah, he had over 200, yes.
Well, if you turn it upside down, where you throw for the...
Yeah, but Skip, that's what the number.
Okay, but if you do it that way, it works. But they're doing it the wrong way. And you know, will Dak battle you? Nobody will battle harder in the fourth quarter than Dak Prescott will. And I'm not saying he's the most supremely gifted thrower in the history of football, but he will make you sweat in the fourth quarter, because he will not obviously give up or quit. He's going to get better and better, but it's not going to contribute to wins.
So you agree with me, Dak put up a lot of empty calories.
They were completely empty calories, because in the end, what did the scoreboard say? It had a big old L, and as you say, my Dallas Cowboys are sitting out on the curb at your restaurant waiting to get in on Sunday evening, right?
Thank you.
And you're not even letting them in because you say you don't serve Dallas Cowboys.
they too sorry losers. I was letting them in there.
Too sorry losers. So in the end, do I like Zeke's new and improved physique? I do.
Yes.
Does that mean he's going to be 2016 Zeke?
No, that does not.
Can't go that far. No. But between him and Tony Pollard, could they establish a first quarter running game where they might actually take control of some games? Maybe.
Well, how healthy is Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins, and Zach Martin going to be for the entirety of the season?
All right, that's the question.
Because we've seen when Tyron Smith goes out, Skip. Remember when he went out the first time and they went to Atlanta?
Oh, it was just horrible.
And Claiborne had like 6 sacks.
He did. Yeah.
So
I'm not sure Dak ever quite recovered from that.
and then
game.
Lyle Collins, your right tackle. So now you got a mismatch. Zach Martin can't play every offensive line position.
They were starting to come together last year, I thought.
Yeah,
until
when they
he
bumped
went
into the right
out.
tackle, yeah.
Okay. And then you know what the
He
rest
got
of the
hurt.
story was? It was it Thanksgiving? Yeah, against Washington. He's gone in the first quarter.
Yep.